Hey Changemaker! Welcome to Learning for Good, the only podcast that teaches nonprofit leaders how to leverage training to drive performance, improve capacity, and fuel their mission impact. Do you ever feel like your nonprofit is growing, but your people just aren't keeping up? Or like you're fixing the same problems over and over? Do you wonder how to build confident, capable staff who know how to lead, not just execute? If we haven't met yet, I'm Heather, and I know how hard it can feel to get people to do what's expected of them. Trust me, I have 3 kids. I've tried telling people what to do and how. I've tried the traditional training approaches, and I realized that just doesn't work. And that's when I started researching what does work. Now, I help mission-driven leaders use learning to drive performance, build capacity, and make change that lasts. And I'm sharing it all on this podcast. So block your calendar, turn off your Teams or Slack chat, and let's dive in. It's Learning for Good. 200 episodes. I cannot believe we are here. I started this podcast in 2022, and I had no idea where it would take me. I feel like I had found my voice around behavior change and training. I'd interviewed best-selling authors and experts like Julie Winkle-Giuliani, Andy Storch, and Julie Dirksen. I've sat down with nonprofit executives who are paving the way for the sector. I've explored real challenges and solutions with nonprofit learning and development leaders. And as an extension of this podcast, I've started the Learning for Good Summit, which is a virtual convening that brings nonprofit HR, learning and development, and talent development leaders together around a specific challenge, like becoming more strategic. That was our last one. And I've built the nonprofit L&D Collective, home to well over 100 nonprofit HR, learning and development, and talent development professionals who are all committed to learning and growing together. And it is such a joy to be able to give back to the sector in this way. None of it would be possible without you showing up each week, listening to this podcast, sharing it with others, and leaving ratings and reviews. That is a podcaster's love language. So I want to start by saying thank you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for the messages that you send me on LinkedIn about the impact this podcast has had on you and your life. Thank you for leaving reviews. All of that means so much to me because I want to show up and be my best for you. Because today, 200 episodes is a special milestone, I have a fun episode for you. 200 lessons from 200 episodes. No, I'm just kidding. You know by now, if you've been around my podcast, my episodes are much shorter than that. So they're a little bit more like a snack than a multi-course dinner. But I do want to share some ideas that have changed my career and my journey in learning and development. So let's dive in. It's Learning for Good. "200 episodes. It feels unreal. Some of your favorite episodes have been, and I'm just going to name them off, Want to Work in Nonprofit Learning and Development? Here's What You Should Know. That's my top episode. Translating Behavior Science into Learning and Development Strategy, Lessons from Top Experts. That's the second one. Are your nonprofit leaders the best they can be? Your leadership skills might be lagging, and this is why. Using a blended cohort training model to create behavior change, and how to conduct a training needs analysis. Now, this list is kind of fun for me to look at because it shows the diversity of episode topics while still being true to the world of learning and development. Some are career focused. It's more about how you can develop your skills, build your credibility, create the career you want in this field. And some are behavior change focused. These are my favorite. But how can learning and development actually create change and prove it? And then some are leadership focused. So how can learning and development support stronger leadership throughout the organization? How can we create this ecosystem for strong leadership to thrive? And I think these 5 episodes are pretty representative of all of my episodes. So it's fun to see this variety in the top 5. I'll link to those in the show notes if you want to check any of those out. But as I think back over 200 episodes, I know my voice has gotten stronger, my belief, my approach. And so I want to share 5 ideas that have changed me, that have changed my voice and my work for the better. All right. The first idea, the first lesson is training is not the goal, change is. Most of us got into this field because we like training, but that has prompted us to think too much about the output versus the outcome. Training is an output. Change is the outcome. Change is the goal. Change is what we want to see happen. Training is just the mechanism to help us get there. And it seems obvious, but taking time to shape my thinking around this and sharpen how I talk about this has been so helpful for me as a leader in this space. Next, none of this works without relationship. I knew this. This is one of the areas that I focused on when working internally at a national nonprofit. Relationships matter. You will not get very far alone in life. And so I was always intentional about building relationships with my stakeholders and understanding all of their different priorities and pain points, not just the ones that we were working on together. And so relationships have always been important in my mind. But after interviewing close to 100 people on this podcast, I can confirm none of this works without relationships. Relationships are part of the work. I mean, I'm almost ready to say they are the work because they are so essential. Melody Lamb joined me to talk about a coaching program she developed. She started by listening. That's relationship building. Wilson Kirkpatrick joined me to talk about making data-driven decisions. But he didn't just review the data on paper. He listened to people. That's relationships. Melanie Gonzalez talked about building non-traditional career pathways. And she shared how she wanted people to feel like they were part of the process. That collaboration created ownership. It's relationship. Mark Nilles talked about what it takes to be a strategic learning leader. And it isn't through your expertise alone. It's relationships. Rebecca Kelly shared how we work together to create behavior change through a blended cohort training model. What kept people engaged in that process? It was knowing they weren't the only one, knowing their peers were in it with them. It was connecting people outside of the synchronous learning experiences. Relationships. See, relationships create influence, they create understanding, and they help you create lasting change. So none of this works without relationships. All right, the third idea, design more than training. Change requires more than skills. Skills are essential, but that's only one piece. Change also requires motivation, opportunity, support. You can give someone the perfect training. They can feel so confident in their skills as they leave your classroom, but when Monday morning rolls around, the environment will win. If their performance review measures something else, if their supervisor rewards something else, if there is friction, the old behaviors will sink in. Training alone cannot change behavior. So we have to design more than just training. All right, fourth on my list, proof will be the price of admission. They say trust is at an all-time low right now. So just saying that your training works or your approach works will not convince anyone. Just trust me is not a strategy. We have to have proof. Now that means 2 things. We have to measure our impact and we have to learn to tell the story of impact. And to be clear, completion rates are not enough. What are people doing differently because of this experience? Remember, training is not the goal. Change it. We don't learn about change through completion rates alone. We have to think about each level of measurement, satisfaction, knowledge, behavior, impact, and what story all of that data tells us. This cannot be an afterthought. It cannot be the finish line. Measurement is how we know we're solving the right problem, changing behavior, and earning trust for the future. So proof will be the price of admission. And then finally, the future belongs to strategic learning leaders. Information is more readily available now than it has ever been. Off-the-shelf learning libraries are abundant and honestly built into most of the LMSs out there today. AI will change and has already started changing our field. So what do we bring that AI doesn't? What makes us unique? It's our experiences, our expertise, our relationships, our influence. We can ask strategic questions to understand the problem and the audience. We can apply our own expertise to figure out if training is the right solution. We can apply behavior change principles to create change. We can see things that AI can't. We can build relationships that AI can't. We can solve for problems that off-the-shelf courses can't. We have the context. We have the relationships. It is in relationship with influence that we are able to diagnose the problem and recommend the best path forward. And to me, this is our biggest opportunity. But it means we have to invest in ourselves, our mindset, our approach, our credibility, our influence. And that's why I'm so honored to host this podcast and to convene people through the summits and inside the collective and to lead people inside of our Catalyst Leadership Accelerator program. The future belongs to those of us who continue learning and adapt and show up with strategic influence each and every day. So whether you're investing in yourself through this podcast or a book or a formal program, prioritize your own learning and growth. Become the type of learning leader you want to be. At the end of the day, I want you to think like a strategic leader, not a training provider. I want you to build relationships and use evidence to shape decisions. And I want you to solve meaningful organizational problems and prove the result. That's why this podcast exists. That's what we've learned over the past 200 episodes. And that's where we're headed in the future. I'm glad to have you with me on this journey. I'll see you next time on Learning for Good.
Hey friend, was this episode helpful for you? Did you like what you heard? Do you want more content like this? Here are 3 things you can do. Hit subscribe. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts or your podcast app of choice. Share this episode with a colleague. This means so much to me personally. I read every review, but it also helps me learn what content you like most so I can create more of what you want. All right, turn that Teams or Slack chat back on when you're ready, and I'll see you next time on Learning for Good.